Americans, and I can see one massive worldwide revolution coming up.
I don't see that, unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately. If that was the case, where are all these people when we're looking at Detroit, a motor city, the motor city, which has been for so long such an important element of the American economy? It's been destroyed. It's been turned into a post-apocalyptic city.
Sure,
and it
by
looks like
greed.
the president did.
By greed. The greed of the people who had the power to either make it or break it. You know, and yet, if you try to use the same argument with the city of New York, the city of Los Angeles, or any other thriving metropolis in any country in the world, the events of Detroit, its downfall, are insignificant.
Well, they may be so, but the point is, I mean, again, let's look at Europe.
Okay.
So I live in Spain. Spain doesn't exist as a country anymore. It's a protectorate. It has been taken over by the people who run the world's financial systems. Mm-hmm. You can say the same about Portugal. You can say the same about Greece. I mean, look at the Ukraine. Look at Southeast Asia. Look at South America and Argentina. So we're seeing this, you know, the entire world is going in financial hell, mm-hmm. and not enough people. We should have a revolution today. A lot of these leaders should be hung from trees, but they're not, because they control the media, they control the key institutions, and it's not a conspiracy. You don't need millions of people to do that.
You know, I don't think the media is the big bad player here. I really don't. You know, the media is at times the scapegoat for the rich and the famous. When you're looking
if you control the media, you can control how people think. You can. A lot of the times people, you know, when they read my books, they say, if what you say is true, why isn't it on the cover of the New York Times? The reason it's not on the cover of the New York Times or the Washington Post or CNN is because the world corporate media is part of the world's elite, which is one of the reasons, you know, the Rockefellers and Chase Manhattan Banks and Bank of Americas and Citigroups, they are big owners, important chunks of media conglomerates, because if they own 5%, they can have the controlling interest in the company, which means that when the New York Times, if one day they decide to bring out all the dirty dealings in the international drug trade, as we've seen last year with Hong Sheng, we've seen with Citigroup, as we've seen with Wachovia laundering $400 billion of narcos, drug money. They can't publish it on the front page because they're owned by the same corporate interests who control the world's financial structures.
All right, let me ask you this. What is the percentage in world population that actually you believe control what's going on? 5%, 4%,
no,
3%, 2%,
I think we're probably dealing with about maybe 6, 7, 10,000 people, out of which really important, are a handful.
All right, so why can't the rest of the world get together and do something about it? Why is there no leadership? Why is there no leadership? Is it because there's not enough substantial evidence to back up these claims?
Oh, there's tons of evidence. No, it's not that. There's tons. There's more than enough. I mean, look at American politics. How many people still believe that Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy? And this is 50 years after he was killed. And there's such an abundance of evidence that he never had anything to do with it.
All right, let me ask you two questions. Who killed JFK, and what was the real reason for 9/11?
I don't know who killed him, but we certainly know who didn't kill him. And, you could say the same about Martin Luther King. You could say the same about 9/11. You could say the same about all these different conspiracies. But what we do know is that for whatever reason, most people to believe the official party line. I guess because believing something else makes it evident that the world you live in has very little to do with democracy. And the fact that people don't understand that the guy they vote for and who sits in the White House, whatever his name is, it doesn't matter if it's Obama or if it's Bush or whoever, the people who put him there, the financial interests who spend a lot of money of getting that man elected, are going to make sure that that individual represents their financial interests. No sitting president ever presides over anything. And to think that a guy who is sitting at the White House is the most powerful man in the world has very little to do with the reality of how the real world really runs.
I noticed that you've talked to the Venezuelan armed forces. You've talked. You've been featured on Wall Street in Italy. How does the American press take you, and why haven't you done more in America?
I've done tons in America. I mean, my book sold over 500,000 copies in the United States,
Yeah.
which is a lot of books.
Sure.
And my book Bilderberg was number 4 on Amazon.
Right.
And we've done shows. I've done interviews on CNN. I've been interviewed by the Los Angeles Times. I've been interviewed by major media. But America is such a big country that it's not like Spain, which is a little country, or Canada, which is a big country territorially, but it's not a big country in terms of population or influence.
Yeah.
So, and I'm from Toronto. My family lives in Canada. But the point is, America. I mean, you could be in New York, Rob, and you know that, and the rest of the world doesn't exist because New York is not a city; it's a country, it's a continent, it's the planet Earth or the planet New York.
Well, that's the way it is wherever you live, whether it's Toronto, Mississauga, or whether it's Vancouver, or whether it's
not. When you're in Toronto, it's just you realize it's just a big little city, and if you're in Mississauga,
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
But
just
Madrid, for example, you realize it's nothing. Madrid is just a big little city with 3 million people, which really doesn't do of any importance to anybody in the world. But the United States, it's not just a country; it's an entire world. And whether you're in Los Angeles, whether you're in Seattle, you're so far away from the rest of the world that the rest of the world doesn't actually exist.
But what I was trying to get at is, talking to the Venezuelan chiefs of staff, talking to the Wall Street Journal in Italy. Have you been asked to speak to Congress, to the American Joint Chiefs of Staff?
No, I've been asked to speak to Congress. I would love to do that. Yeah. I've done tours across the United States. We've given conferences, in over a dozen cities in New York and in Portland, in Los Angeles. We've done conferences and press conferences all over the country. And actually, the Hollywood version of Bilderberg was bought by a company who produced Terminator 4. And that was never released. But the point is, I did buy the rights to my book to make a feature film. But again, America is a big country, and the mainstream media is obviously the gatekeepers of the truth. And I have been interviewed by independent media, but again, no Wall Street Journal articles or New York Times or the Washington Post articles, unfortunately.
Or speaking to the American Joint Chiefs of Staff or addressing Congress.
Unfortunately not. I don't need to speak to them. They know how things are done. It's the Venezuelan armed forces who don't really understand how the world works.
Interesting. Where do you see the, like when we're talking about transhumanism, how is this going to affect, are there any positive sides to this, or is it all doom, gloom, high tech, and the human race is going to be subtly eliminated?
I think a lot of it is very, very positive. I don't want people to get the wrong impression that I'm saying I'm poo-pooing the trans evolution. I think technological evolution is necessary. Again, progress and development is directly proportional to population density. So if we have 7 billion people on a planet Earth and we're going to go next generation to 10, we need the technology to be able to sustain such an incredible mass of people. And what we have a lot of the times with this technology is we can extend people's lives. So you can have on the one hand a doctor sitting in his office, be it in New York and Los Angeles and wherever, and he's operating without leaving his office on a computer on a little girl who's dying of brain cancer in the Philippines. And the same technology can also be used by a 4-star U.S. general who is sitting in his office in the Pentagon ordering a drone strike on a little village where allegedly you have terrorists, where in fact there are no terrorists, but 100 people getting ready to celebrate somebody's wedding, and that's about to be, turned into a slaughter, a mass slaughter. So technology, again, is an amazing thing.
We've got to take our final break here for a second, but I've got a question to ask you that I'd like an answer to when we come back from this break. Are we as humans at this very moment capable of handling all the information that we are being fed? Can we actually process it? We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with Daniel Estulin as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. For more information, visit www.danielestulin.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com. Daniel Estulin is my special guest this hour, www.danielestulin.com. He's the author of Transevolution, The Coming Age of Human Deconstruction. And then my question to you was, Daniel, before we went to the break, are humans in this very present time capable of handling all the information, or should I say processing all the information that they're subjected to?
No, the answer is absolutely not. Most people are so technologically unaware that they're still talking about microchip on your hand, when with smartphones, there's a billion of them out there. We have a microchip attached to your body 24/7. Just, look at I'll give you one example. Neuroscience, which is the study of the nervous system. With the advances in chemistry, computer science, engineering, medicine, and other disciplines, neuroscience now also includes the study of molecular, cellular, developmental, structural, functional, evolutionary, computational, and medical aspects of the nervous system. People don't understand any of this. They don't know how this works. And they don't understand that this evolution and development directly affects the sophisticated neural weapons which are being created as we speak by the governments around the world. Emotional detection systems in the very near future will pervade public areas as global surveillance network could seek out terrorists and criminals. And this is just one very tiny aspect of what is being done to us around the world. And I said earlier, from nanotechnology, which completely has changed, the dynamics of future wars, because comparing nanotech, to nuclear weapons or nano weapons, it would be like comparing bow and arrow to an M16 or a Kalashnikov. And needless to say, as I said before, synthetic biology, which will have completely changed forever, beginning now, the way we understand what a being is, because we can literally create synthetic DNA and synthetic individuals under the control of men, made in a laboratory. So over the 19th century was the revolution of harnessing energy from fossil fuels, which is oil. The 20th century was about exploiting the power of data. This century is about controlling biology, and the elite, the men who run the world from behind the curtain, are convinced that today, because of these technological developments, they have become the gods. And if they had to face the gods, they could beat them at their own game.
So in your opinion, is what is happening good or is it evil?
It's technology, again, is amazing, but the people who have control of this technology, I doubt very, very much they'll be using it for human good or common good for 7 billion people. If that was the case, we'll be far more advanced than we are now. That said, Look, 4.5 years from now, we're getting ready, a Dutch company called Mars One, to send a manned mission to Mars. And by 2023, the Russians and the European Space Agency will